And thank you. Um, let's see, first on, order of business is audience for staff and citizens, but I think everybody here is in an official manner, so we'll just go on. And to review the January 19th minutes. I appreciate, Mary Ellen, I thought they were very thorough, just kind of summarizing everything, which is helpful to remember, because we all have enough going on in our lives that, a quick read of this kind of brings you back to what was discussed and what was going on, so appreciate that. I think I was good with the minutes. I didn't have any comments. John or David, were you good?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So good with the minutes. On to discussion on classroom mini split project. So I think we discussed, Mary Ellen, I don't know if you wanted to kind of summarize kind of anything that happened in the last month, or kind of.
Yeah, I'll do that for the recording because I sent an email to people regarding what happened. Rose and Kate, who's the chair of the Green Energy Committee, and myself spoke with our account rep, our Eversource account rep, and he suggested that our next step is to decide between the two companies, which were ERTEMP and ESC, based on factors such as the price on delivery, the warranty, the delivery time, and two things I don't know what they are: the COP and SEER rating of the equipment. And then that the company that is chosen sends him their proposal, who he then sends it to an engineer, and it takes them 2 to 4 weeks to send out a letter to us, which is a letter of agreement and the amount of incentive money they'll give us. And that agreement has to be signed in 30 days, but it's non-binding. And we have 12 months to get the job finished. And if there's any supply chain issues, as long as the order was placed and there's documentation that there's supply chain issues, it doesn't change the agreement. But the proposal must be submitted to Eversource before beginning and before installation. The federal funds that are available do not affect Eversource's incentives, either positively or negatively. Eversource locks in their agreements, or the amount of incentives and how they calculate it every 4 years. So that won't change anything. So what I think we have to do is to decide between the two companies. The only other, well, we have a little bit of information we have to wait for. One is that Earthlight, Stefan at Earthlight is trying to figure, well, he will figure out how much electricity this equipment will use. So I sent him the list of equipment from both companies, and he's calculating the increase in electric use. So then, because we also have this project going where we'd like to install solar somewhere else in town, so that we get the school, well, up to 5 municipal buildings get the benefits of cash from that solar installation. That particular program has to be tied to having electric chargers. So there would be an electric charger installed in town also, because there's no virtual there's no sharing from building to building unless you go through that particular program. But he's really knowledgeable, and I trust him completely on that. So we have to figure out how much electricity will go up, and if we can offset it with solar, which, as you know, we'd have to get through the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance because it's not our project unless we throw it in our backyard, which I don't think we have room for. And there's one other thing we were waiting on. Oh, it'd be nice to know the federal incentives. What the Eversource guy said was 50%, he thinks that we'd get 50% of the cost of the project from Eversource. And he said, and I believe he said up to 8, he thinks that up to 80% of the project would be covered completely if we got the federal money too. So, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so nobody knows yet about that federal money. It has to we've got all kinds of people looking at that. So as soon as that news breaks, we'll be applying for it. And there was the other thing about the battery backup. It's completely separate from the heat pumps, but that would take Rose and Kate and I were talking to the Eversource rep about that, and he hasn't written me back. I went on a webinar with a company that CCM, Connecticut, something of municipalities put on this thing, but it was actually a company advertising their program, which is the free battery. But you don't have to go through that particular company. So I wrote to the Eversource guy and I said, is this the same thing we talked about? He said, it appears to be. And I said, did you turn our town's name in? And he hasn't gotten back to me. So I don't know whether you have to go through a company. The one that CCM used was from Stanford, and they were talking about big projects like big high schools. And it sounded like they didn't want to be bothered with small ones. So I'm hoping that Eversource is doing it on their own. The thing I would have to figure out, though, is if Eversource did it, who owns the battery? Because like in the CCM company, they own the battery, they maintain it, they do all that, just like our solar panels. It's like a PPA. So, that takes a lot of work off our shoulders if we go through a company. We'd have to find one though. But like I said last night, it takes a year or two to get those big batteries in, and that's totally separate from the heat pumps. It would help us, but it's totally separate.
Okay.
And I think that's all I know at this point. Yeah. Did anyone ever come out to look at our variable drives? I know John wanted to be notified, and David too, if Eversource sent a rep out.
Sam would know. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Sam
Okay.
renewed it.
That probably take time. Everything seems to take time.
When I was out, they may have come and they just didn't tell me, but
Okay.
that would have been before Christmas.
No, this would have been
No.
after Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, then they
Yeah.
haven't come. Then they haven't come.
Okay. I'll ask Martin about that too. But okay, thank you. So I think for us, we should look at, try to gather information. I noticed AirTemp put down their warranty information. It was 8 years for equipment and X was a shorter amount of time for labor. But ESC didn't have their warranty. They gave us a real detailed list of their equipment though, whereas AirTemp didn't. So
Right.
if the committee wants me to, I can write to those representatives and get more. I can get the price on delivery, the delivery time, and the actual equipment and the warranty info. So we could compare the two companies and be ready as soon as we get the information about solar and how much electricity we would need.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing. If we need those pieces of the puzzle to make that decision, I guess that's what we need to. We need to probably get.
Yeah, I have
compile
a
it slash ask
preference.
them for
I
it.
have a preference for. Yeah, I have a preference for ESC. I'm biased already because they are so much easier to work with than AirTemp. And they seem to get right away that, what we wanted, whereas AirTemp sent us 3 different proposals before they got that. And they don't communicate as much. But
Mhm.
I will go to both companies.
Did the email that you sent on the 25th, Mary Ellen, that had all the ECS, did I looking through those attachments, did that also include the air temp one?
I don't know. I have to go back to the 25th.
Okay,
and
no
look.
problem. No, we don't have to worry about it now. I was
Okay.
just starting through it, but
I sent a bunch of stuff out so that John would see our energy audits, the kind of equipment we have in the building and stuff. So I can't remember what I said.
yeah, it did have a lot of that energy audit stuff, yep. Okay,
I'll look back.
no problem.
So do you want me to go ahead and try to come up with the warranty and delivery time and all that?
I mean, what are people's thoughts? I mean, I do trust your judgment. You've been doing a tremendous amount of work on this. We've already discussed that we didn't feel like Greenleaf was a viable option, and so we were down to those two. And from a cost perspective, at least, ECS was, I think, the lesser of the two. And
Yeah, it
they
was.
seem to be more receptive and responsive. So that's good for me. So, I mean, I don't know how firm we need to be on those other facts, I guess, to make a recommendation. I mean, all of them were state certified, so it's not like we have to go to bid, I don't believe. So I don't know, David,
Well, we
do you
could
have any
also,
thoughts?
Well, the way I see it, we're still waiting to see what kind of rebates we can get from the state and from the federal. Is that correct?
the problem with the rebate on Eversource is that they have to submit their proposal like they're our company. They don't evaluate, we couldn't send them 2 and ask for the engineer at Eversource to look at both of them, which is a real pain.
So you're saying we got to sign up and make a commitment with one company before we can see what the rebates are? Is that what you're saying?
You don't make a commitment to buy it or do it. You make a commitment to go with that company. And then they submit their particular proposal to Eversource.
So
So,
we're not locked in, so that's, so if Eversource comes back and says, we're gonna give you $20,000. And we're gonna have to pay 900 and, well, whatever it would be, whatever,
Yeah.
over 800,000 ourselves, we can just say, well, we can't do that. It's not like
Yeah.
if we go down this path, it's not like we're locked into doing it. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah, our rep thought that we would get 50% of the cost from Eversource. So that's pretty good. And then the federal money. And then the savings on the oil. And then we'd have to wait to find out how much the electric bill would be.
yeah, I know. The way they just upped our electric rates kind of puts a monkey wrench into this whole project, you know? I know oil prices are high and that was our incentive to move forward with this electric mini split project. And I don't know, I think we need to present this to the whole board in a common sense fashion to see what the feeling is or consensus from the board. And I don't know if we can do that yet unless we have enough information on quotes from 2 different people. And that's what we we're just talking about. We need maybe a little more refined definition on the quotes from both those other of the two that we looked at. You know, Mary
Yeah,
Ellen.
well, we won't,
what
we
you
won't
was
get the
saying at
Eversource.
beginning.
Set of criteria, David, that
won't-
Mary Ellen was talking earlier about. Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, we could get the price on delivery, the warranty, the delivery time, but we won't get the Eversource incentive from two companies.
Right,
That's, yeah. So I think we could still ask for the warranty and all that, to make a decision between the two companies while we're waiting for, the cost on a solar project, somewhere in town. Because that money is phenomenal too. And the payback for putting that kind of solar in is really great. So we could be ready to present what we would like to do, with or without the solar. But we won't know about the federal incentives yet either. I think we have time. I think we're still in a waiting thing, and it's mid-February.
yeah. All right, well, why don't we, if you're willing to reach out to the company to get those couple more pieces of the puzzle. And then
Okay.
we'll see what we have in March and whether we'd be ready to move forward with discussing with the whole board for a recommendation.
I just want to say, Mary Ellen, thank you. I know you're doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes on this project, a lot of research.
You're welcome. There's tons of webinars lately on heat pumps, so we're like, I'm watching lots of things. A lot of them are residential, but yeah, we just love to be ready and lined up so that the equipment is there, and it's not taken by larger projects. Because once the money comes out, we'd love to have it for at least next school year. We started this last July, so
Yep.
it takes
I
a long
think
time.
another important factor is the actual expenditures on our fuel oil over the past 5 years. Back to Sally LaHoo, if we could kind of get an itemized look at that, and I'm just going to ask Samantha if you could pass that on to her. We can see what we're spending for fuel oil, gallons and dollars in the past 5 years. I'm sure it's an upward trend. That goes with a little more justification and makes me feel a little more warm and fuzzy about moving forward with the mini splits.
Yeah,
Either way,
Yep. All right.
we really haven't seen that on a one sheet of paper with 5 years of what it's cost us for fuel oil in the building, for heat.
Great. Yeah, we have the
It's got to be
from the
right there
budgets we
somewhere.
have, like what that fuel line item from the budget was for the last couple of years, but you're right, we don't know what that equated to, or gallons and dollars per gallon.
Put it on a sheet of paper so we can all see it, I use the
right.
term warm and fuzzy because I'm warm and fuzzy, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, we can get that, David.
All right. Let's
John,
see.
did you have any? I wondered if John had any input
yeah.
because I know it's his field.
Well, I want to second Dave's thought on you doing all this background work. I think that's phenomenal. You're really putting a lot of time into this, but I still feel like we just don't know all the facts yet. And before we go presenting it to anybody, I think we still need all this information. And I gotta be honest with you. I'm very concerned about these things. I mean, there's an awful lot to this. It's an awful lot of equipment. I mean, I'm concerned about whether the solar is going to be able to handle this stuff. Like I say, there's still an awful lot of unknowns here. from my
Yeah.
perspective.
I agree. I agree.
I think a walkthrough, Mary Ellen, and you guys, we talked about it with Eversource, me and John, if that could be arranged, might make us feel a little more comfortable about moving forward too, you know?
And I say this because I want all the facts straight before I try to go and tell somebody else that this is a good idea, or maybe we should rethink this, or, you know, I mean, I got to have a good feeling in my gut before I can be, in all honesty, bring it to somebody else.
I agree. It
Yep.
took us 2 years once we had the solar panels delivered to the parking lot, and then they took them away because Eversource in the end said, oh no, you can't generate that much electricity around here. The grid won't accept it in the summer.
Yeah.
And then we had a conference call with Kate and Alan and myself, and we asked the engineer, really? And he said, no, that's wrong. So they brought the panels back and they installed them. Then it took a long time to get the electrical panels working properly too. So some of this technology does take a while to straighten out. So I hear you.
I mean, we're talking about being able to heat or cool each classroom individually now. Who's going to be responsible for turning that up and turning it down and regulating it? A teacher? Don't a teacher have her hands
No,
cool enough without regulating a room? You know, I mean, I just, what about maintenance of these things? You know, I mean, I hear that the maintenance on these things is pretty serious. 3 times a year, come in, shut the unit down, clean it, sanitize it so that it's not pumping mold out into a classroom. There's Freon to deal with. I mean, there's just an awful lot to these things. And maintenance wise, there's quite a bit of maintenance that goes along with this. I just want all this information, like I said, in my head, squared away before I can bring this before anybody and say, hey, listen, I think this is a good idea, and this is why.
Yeah. I just added maintenance to the list that we'll ask the 2 companies.
Yeah.
They did talk about it, but I don't have it in writing.
Yeah. Last thing I want is one of these things running, pushing mold out into a classroom, getting 35 kids sick, and then they're going home and getting their family sick. Oh, where'd you pick that up? Well, I picked it up at school. Yeah, I don't want that.
All right. Now, those are all good
Yeah,
concerns and
the-
valid points.
The filters were listed on the ESC.
Mhm.
And as far as controls go, it's centrally controlled in the office.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, well, we'll have more discussions on this before we move forward with anything then.
Yep, I think we should get the company back to do a presentation to us when we figure out which company we want to go with. And then just have an in-person presentation.
Would work.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm all for that.
sounds like a plan. All right, I think that's probably all for now for mini splits then.
Yeah.
PA system, Dr. Sarli, do you have any updates?
I do. We're getting it installed next week.
Okay,
Hey,
that's good. What's their duration? Like, it'll just take the 1 week?
That's the anticipation. I think it's 3 to 5 days, and they're coming, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, on Tuesday, I think, is the start date.
Oh, good. So the kids won't be there. You guys can. Good.
yep.
All right. Any questions on that from anybody?
very good.
For the 5-year plan, I apologize. I think my goal had been to get the latest version of that I have out so people can review it. I will try to send a copy of that out. And then we can maybe review it next month, make updates, and then I can try to maybe present it to the full board for implementation. As far as individual items, just, I think the sunroom repair, would be the one item that Mary Ellen had reached out and we had the discussion last meeting of approximately $16,000 to repair that. I think for now, we just have to know that that's the probability about what it would cost, and if we have either money in our capital non-recurring fund or other means to make the money, but I don't foresee, I don't have the bandwidth to start a campaign to raise the money right now, so I think we have to just kind of put that project on hold, but know it's there, know about what it would cost, so.
And Mark, not to interrupt, but at the board meeting, I'm going to talk about this more in depth, so I won't go too in depth here. We're going to go into executive session, but I am applying for there's a school security grant that's out there right now.
Okay,
With potential reimbursement to projects that were completed. So like our PA project, I think is
Okay.
going to be potentially refundable. So I'll talk about that more
Okay.
next week when we meet. So all of that to say there may be more in capital non-reoccurring if we were to
okay,
potentially.
got it, all right.
Great.
All right. Anybody else have anything for the 5-year plan?
The whole thing. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off track on this, but I just want to make everybody aware of this. With what's going on in the world with all these mall shootings and mass shootings and whatever, and I totally respect the Dupuis and their donation and what they did for this. And I'm all for getting this repaired if that's what the case may be. But I just want you to know that that's if you had a claw hammer, that's basically an open door to get into school. If you had any kind of ill intentions.
John, we've got to be a little bit careful just because talking security just on a public meeting, but I think that's why we wanted the executive session on next Wednesday is to kind of go over stuff like that. So but yeah, no, I understand your concern.
I just want to throw that out there, Mark. I mean, we're talking about repairing this or going,
Right.
and I just want to bring that up because the big world out there is definitely not pleasant, and I don't want to see that come to Hampton.
Of course. Yep.
Okay.
Appreciate the perspective.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll send the working copy that I had out. It's been a while since we've looked at that, so it might need more work than just one meeting can do, but we'll see what we can do. All right, as far as 2022, 2023 budget, the current year that we're in, Dr. Sarli, I mean, I think we get our updates on every month. I think, like David said at the last full meeting, it seemed like we were kind of on par with what we needed to get through the rest of the year. Has there been any other concerns that we have
No, not at this. Nope, not at this time. We're okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or concerns for this year's budget? All right. Here, no, we'll move on. And then I think we had a lengthy enough discussion on the 2023-2024 budget last night. I appreciate all your hard work, Dr. Sarli, with Sally and Sam, I'm sure, throwing that or putting that together with a lot of thought and trying to be mindful of what's needed and also, kind of keeping it as low as we feel we can logistically. So.
Yeah, and Mark, I spoke with Sally today, and just 2 items to keep in mind that one that happened tonight, which was the insurance increase that we put in our budget for 23-24 for the anticipated budget was 20%, but it looks like we're going to be at 25.7%. So she's going to redo those numbers. And one of her requests was that we do wait until March before making waiting till March for the board to make that decision only because of open enrollment, like we talked about.
Mhm.
And so we would have a much stronger idea of if anybody was going to change their insurance, because that would have a pretty dramatic impact to what we think. Like if everybody was to stay the same, that's what we think. But if someone was to take on insurance who hadn't previously taken on insurance, would impact our budget. So
Okay,
if we could just keep that as a consideration, just so that we're presenting as close to an accurate prediction for the 23-24 school year budget as we can.
it's fair. What I was gonna ask you on that. Oh. I don't know if we would know this yet, but I'd like to have Sally or yourself help us and make sure we know the facts about the ECS grant and what the plan is gonna be, just because I just like to make sure that we fact check other statements that are made throughout the town and we understand what the facts are there, how that's gonna be rolled out this year. And then the other big thing that always affects our budget is like what MBR is. So like that kind of, we need to factor in what Parish Hill's population is, as well as, you know, when we have a little bit more data on their budgets and stuff like that, that kind of all rolls into how it could or could not affect our budget. So I think those two pieces of the puzzle also get a little bit more fidelity in March, so.
Yes, you got it.
All right, any other questions or thoughts on the 2023-2024 budget? Hearing none, we'll keep going. So audience for staff and citizens, again, everybody's here in an official manner. And next, agenda planning. So it'll be March 16th, I believe, the next meeting.
I think you're right.
And same time, if everybody still, I don't know as though we would have a presentation at that meeting from a company, so I would, oh, excuse me, keep that one probably Zoom. And then we will see if in April we made a decision on a company and want that representative to come and talk to the, you know, this committee and or the full board, or maybe do one then the other. We can have those discussions at the next meeting, whether that's in the cards yet or not.
Okay, Mark, March starts on Wednesday again. So our board meeting being the 4th, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh,
That is
never
right.
mind, we're Wednesday. I'm thinking of EastCon. EastCon is the week off, not us. Okay, the
Yeah.
16th.
Yeah, usually the after like this is like the 5th meeting, so I finally realized that the next month's meeting should be the same with the whole 28-day thing, so anyway. Okay. So basically probably it'd be similar agenda next month. If
Okay,
anybody has anything
7
they want me to
o'clock.
add, let me know. All right. I think with that, that pretty much sums up what I wanted to go over tonight. Appreciate everybody's time. I guess we'll adjourn at 7:42.
Sounds
Very good.
good. Good night.